Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dad's ex.
And I'm the next.
And today we thought it would be fun to do Q&A, answering some commonly asked questions for co-parenting. I think the first thing that comes to mind, and this isn't really a tradition, but it's the coolest thing that we have done, is the Disney World trip.
Yeah.
100% the Disney World trip. I don't even know where it came up. I just got like a hair up my ass where I was like, I don't know why I used that turn of phrase. That was not a great turn of phrase. But I
think you saw it on like Costco Travel and it was a really good deal.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
If you haven't used Costco Travel yet, use it. It's amazing. You can plan out an entire trip and you only have to pay a deposit and then you can pay monthly towards it, and that's what made Disney World affordable for us. And we took everybody. This was before
the Irish triplets came. So this was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time it was the 4 parents, the 2 big kids, and then the boys. Caden and Baker are referred to as the boys now. So we've got the big kids, the boys, and then the Irish triplets. That's like how the kids are all categorized.
We have amount of kids that we have to categorize them to make
so
it
that
easier.
We don't have to like say their names every single time we're talking about them. But the boys were, when we went, Caden was almost 11 months old, which means that Baker was almost 10 months old.
Mm-hmm.
So they were 8 and 9 months old at the time, or whatever. I just mathed wrong, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's hard for me.
And what a daunting trip, too, where we were like, we're going to take 8 people to Florida with 2 of them being babies.
Yeah.
And it was a great trip. We had so much fun.
The package was amazing because it included our round trip tickets for all of us. Now, granted, the babies technically were free for everything. They technically would have been free, but when you still split the cost up between how many people in total there were, including them, it was like $1,000 a person, I think is what it came out to. But again, it was round trip tickets from Seattle to Orlando. It included a rental car big enough to fit all 8 of us. It included,
which was still a challenge.
It was, yeah. The guys, Will and Nick, had to like crawl into the seats because, being the moms and the planners of this whole trip, we got the front seats.
But both of my husband is over 6 feet tall and your fiance is over 6 feet tall. And these poor men had to crawl into the back of this. And I mean, it was a big car.
Yeah.
But still, we had to get the Suburban car seats in, we had to get the big kids in, and we had to get all of our luggage in. And that was...
Yeah. The nice thing was...
we pack super lightly.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't want to overly pack for the babies, so we had decided early on that we were going to not bring a ton of stuff for the babies, pretty much just bring stuff to last through the airplane ride. And then once we got checked into the hotel, we actually left, went to Target, bought strollers, and we bought diapers, wipes, like everything, that baby food, everything that we were going to need for them for the trip. And then I think we went out to dinner. But yeah, the package included everything: our resort stay, everything. In the park tickets, we had park hopper tickets too. I think we purchased the picture passes or whatever. And so it was amazing. And one of the coolest things I think that we did on the trip too was, obviously as moms, we don't get a lot of time to date our significant others.
No.
And so one thing that we did that was a lot of fun was we took all of the kids, which for us was only one extra kid, but we took all of them so that her and William could have a date night. The next night they took all of the kids so that Nick and I could have a date night. And then I think we actually took all of them again the last night because we were like parked out. The kids wanted to swim, and there were still some more rides that they wanted to go on. And also my feet hurt. That was like oh my gosh, it was awful. It was bad.
I mean, you're talking like 30 to 50,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
It was
And I
wild.
didn't know at the time that I was pregnant.
Oh, that's right.
I was pregnant at the time and I didn't know it. So there was also that. But yeah, so we were done. We were parked out, tired, a little overstimulated. The kids really wanted to have some time in the pool to swim because we'd been spending literally from the point we woke up until the point we went to
Mm-hmm.
bed, we were at the parks trying to soak it all in and take advantage of the time. So we took all of the kids, they stayed and did some more rides, and we took them back to the hotel and went swimming. So we all got our own little like one-on-one time with each other, which was really nice because we really don't get that often now. At least I don't, because I
Yeah.
have, a zoo of children, as Jess calls it.
Yeah.
But so that was really awesome that we got to do that. And we had adjoining rooms, which made that,
Oh yeah, highly, highly
yeah,
recommend. I mean, even if you're going with like your grandparents or your friend, like not even a co-parenting situation, but we had two rooms that had a door in between, and so we still had our like family privacy if we wanted it, but then we could open up the door and it was like we were all staying together. It was
yeah.
so nice.
Which the only time we really had the door shut was at night when we were sleeping. Otherwise, when it was time to like get ready, we had
Mm-hmm.
the doors open in the mornings.
And the kids were just in
The
and out.
kids were in and out. One of like the things that I love to do with Carly is help, braid her hair, put it up, whatever it looked
Mm-hmm.
like that day because it was so hot. One thing I recommend is, especially if you're not used to the heat, do not go to Florida in August. That was like,
It was so hot.
was so hot.
Oh my
We
god.
are from Washington,
Where it's currently,
like 17 degrees when I was driving here.
yeah, it's real cold right
It's
now.
real cold. It's been like 4 degrees the past couple of days.
Yeah.
It's cold. So we're not used to that heat. So as soon as we walked outside, we're all just sweating. It was awful. We're like, I don't even know why we tried to do our hair every day
Oh
because
no.
it just ended up in the messiest of ponytails and buns and
Mm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so much fun. All of our kids' first Disney experience. It was Carly's first Disney experience. It was my son's first Disney experience. The babies or the boys don't remember, so
Yeah.
they'll have another first Disney experience.
It's an
Um,
excuse for us to do it again at some
yeah,
point.
exactly. But it was so nice because we didn't have to miss out on Carly's first Disney
Yeah.
experience. So when Jess had come to me with the idea and brought me like the numbers and how much that would look like, it was important to me to make sure that we made it work because I didn't want to miss, and I'm sure that Nick didn't want to miss her first Disney experience, just like I know Jess wouldn't have wanted to miss that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really awesome that we were able to pull it off
Yeah.
and all go together. It's definitely one of my favorite memories.
Yeah. And it's really cool that we were able to do that. And I think it's one of those things that we always talk about. It's the communication piece. I could have easily planned that Disney trip for just my family and have just taken Carly. But it's exactly as Shelby said. I wanted to give Nick and Shelby the opportunity to be able to do that with Carly. And that's why I brought it to them. I did the numbers and thought it was a great deal. And sure, they could have said no, but I wanted to put forth the opportunity of, hey, I'm wanting to do this. Would you like to join us? And that's a lot of what makes our co-parenting journey so successful is that we do that for each other all the time, is
Yeah.
that open communication. Well, we touched on Christmas Eve is probably like my favorite tradition that we do, but we talked about that in the first episode.
Yeah. We like briefly touched on it. I think that like a little bit more in depth if we went into it, because that's definitely my favorite
Mm-hmm.
tradition is Christmas Eve, is see ourselves as one big family. Nick calls us the Brady Bunch, which is pretty funny, but love her family too. Her son Caden is like, I call him my best little buddy. He's definitely my bud. And I want to make sure that he always feels part of our family too. So one thing that is really awesome is we have elves that visit us every year.
Oh yeah.
And they have an elf that visits them at this house. Her name is Sparkles, right?
Snowflake now.
Snowflake now.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
we had a name change.
We did have a name change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then at our house, we have Dash, and then we just had a new elf that came to stay with us this winter
So many
too, because
kids.
we have so many kids that Dash needed help, apparently. kind of rude saying that I have too many children, Dash, but that's
Even
okay.
Santa's judging you.
I know. So we now also have Holly, and the elves do, even to make sure that Caden's part of our family, is, or knows that he's part of our family, I guess, is
Yeah.
on Christmas Eve, the elves have always brought the kids Christmas Eve gifts, and it always has their like Christmas pajamas and usually some hot chocolate, and it's kind of changes every year. Sparkles always communicates with Dash and now Holly and sends Caden's Christmas present, Christmas Eve gift over to our house. So they all get to open up their Christmas Eve presents together, which is really awesome. I go a little bit overboard on Caden's Christmas present.
A little.
It's so hard. It's so hard. And it's like, it's hard too because our boys, they're very different, but they're also very similar as far as the things that they like. Their personalities are very different, but the things that they like are very similar. So it's so hard too because I'll be buying something for Baker and I'm like, oh, but Caden would love this too. Or I'll find something that is for Caden and then I'm like, oh, but Baker would probably like that too. So then I end up getting, it's like I have a whole other set of twins. Okay. Because I'm buying double of a lot of things, or I'll forget that this happened this year where I bought something for Caden, didn't realize I already bought it again, and this was an item that at the time it was not a Baker thing, it was a Paw Patrol item.
Oh.
And Baker just got into Paw Patrol because of Caden, and so it kind of worked out, I guess. But I bought it, and then Christmas night I'm wrapping presents and I'm like, wait, I gave this to Caden already.
Whoops.
And then I realized I had bought 2 of them. So it ended up being a present for Baker. But like I said, he likes Paw Patrol now, so I guess it worked out. But
I have the same issue though, because all of the things that I bought for Baker, I had to keep in my closet. And normally I don't hide like their gifts that I purchase because there's no need because it's not for. Except Caden would see the gifts that I bought for Baker and would lose his shit and was very upset that they were not for him and that he couldn't open them.
which happened at my house because I did not hide Caden's present. So Baker very much was like, oh, present for Baker? And I was like, no, present for Caden. But then that spirals into, Caden, come over. I go to Caden's house. Want to play with Caden?
Yeah, Caden and Baker are really close.
Yeah, I'd say they're almost like brothers just because they love each other.
Oh,
They
yeah.
love to play together, but they also fight like brothers.
So bad. The amount of times that I have to remind them to share
Yeah.
with each other,
Yeah,
I feel like a broken record.
right. But I think too, we just started a new tradition this year for Christmas that's just for us, actually, and not our families.
It was so much fun.
It was the best. Really unhinged, really
There was so much that
really
happened.
wild. But one thing that we started this year that we're going to make sure that we do every year is, so we got a hotel room.
Mm-hmm. That's the way you said that.
Okay, I'm not trying to.
It's not what you think.
It's not what you think. I shouldn't have paused.
No, that's why I made it. We got a hotel room.
So we got a hotel room to wrap Christmas presents. So we, no, that's actually what we did. I was up till 4:30 in the morning wrapping Christmas
You were
presents.
up really.
Yeah, and then I was up again at 8 wrapping Christmas presents until we had to, literally until the moment we had to load our vehicles back up.
Yeah.
But it was like we got checked into the hotel, didn't even unload. Maybe we did unload a little bit. Went and did some more Christmas shopping because
we have a problem.
We have a problem. And then we went and got dinner. And then we
went on another adventure.
And then we went back to the hotel room and tried for probably a solid 45 minutes to find the Grinch, the Jim Carrey version. Which was a whole thing.
Yeah, it was.
But we put on Christmas movies, we wrapped Christmas presents and hung out, and it was so much fun. It was so nice to be able to wrap Christmas presents without my children walking in and out, my partner walking in and out, or having to be stopped to go get an apple or whatever it is, you know. just all these things. We were able to just sit and focus and wrap, and we got so much done.
Yeah.
I was still up till 4 in the morning, Christmas morning, wrapping presents because
Procrastination.
not procrastination. It was Christmas shopping for me started late this year. I can't contain myself and I just buy too much.
Yeah.
So there's that too. But so that's a new tradition. Just started it this year.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be my second favorite Christmas tradition now.
It was so much fun.
So
next question.
Move on.
I mean, honestly, I think the best part, the most rewarding part for me is I don't have to deal with the salty, the stereotypical like stepmom situation that you see in media or in movies, or the stories that you hear about, like, oh, I can't work with my daughter's stepmom or whatever. It's just nice to not have to deal with that.
Not have the hostility.
Yeah, the hostility. And to know that if I wanted to make a decision for Carly or wanted to do something with her, that we could collaborate and we could communicate effectively, and there's no stress, there's no anxiety around that. Because I remember what it used to be like with my mom and my stepdad, and it was just walking on eggshells all the time. And so for me to not have to do that and know that we're on the same page, that's so rewarding.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
I'd have to say mine's pretty similar of an answer. You know, it's nice to know that I am trusted with certain decisions for Carly. I still very much, even though it also helps that we're very similar in parenting style.
I think that helps a lot. Yeah.
We have a lot of the same mindsets, and it is nice where if there is something where I want to put forth my opinion, I know that she's going to be open to listening to it. If it is a different opinion than what she's thinking, I know that she's going to be open to listening to it and not shut me down. If she goes with it, she goes with it. If she doesn't, that's not my call to make. And I think that me knowing those boundaries and respecting them is also like a very important piece to point out. Is I don't try to push my thoughts or opinions on Jess. If there's something that I think could have been handled differently, or I might just say like, well, here's some like what I would have done with Jessie, or here's like my thoughts on something that maybe we could try next time if this doesn't work, or whatever that might be. And she's very open to that, of like, oh, I didn't even think of that, or you know. But at the end of the day, I know that it's not my decision, it's Jess's and Nick's decision on things that they need to collaborate on. But that's really nice for me, is knowing that I can give my opinion, and it's not going to be, she's not going to be petty and be like, well, I'm not doing that, even if it is a great idea, just because it was your idea.
Right. A lot of that too just comes from the trust. Like, there's a lot of trust in the relationship. I think back to the very first time that I reached out to Shelby, because it's a two-way street. Like, she reaches out to me, but I actually reached out to Shelby for a lot of things. But this was before we were even really close. And I can't remember, like, Nick wasn't answering his phone or something, and I was in like full-blown panic mode.
Oh, is this when her stomach was hurting?
Yeah, when her stomach was hurting. And I have really bad anxiety, and so I hadn't started therapy yet, and I didn't know how to manage it at the time. And so I had the situation where Carly just, I can't get the image out of my head, but yeah, so she essentially what had happened was she projectile vomited all over my couch after not eating anything all day. So I spiraled, and Nick wasn't answering his phone. And so I called Shelby, because, as she so eloquently put it last time, she has raised a child longer than we have. So I trusted her opinion, and I mean, I don't know if she knew what she could do at that time. I don't even really know what my goal was for calling, but I just needed somebody to help calm me down, I think, is really what it was.
It was very much a, there's a situation going on and Nick's not answering his phone and I don't know what to do. And I was like, okay, well, like, let's breathe a minute.
Yeah.
Explain to me what's happening.
So bad. I like literally had like yeeted my child into a bathtub and was like running warm water to like clean her up and everything. And yeah, so I ended up having to take her to the hospital. We found out that she had lactose intolerance, which I had like a sneaking suspicion of that already, but this like confirmed it. But that kind of set the tone of I can call Shelby, no judgment. She has seen me at my absolute worst, and she'll still be there for me. That's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're welcome.
So humble too.
Yeah, the most humble. But yeah, I mean, I'd say that those are like some of the biggest benefits and like some of the nicest things when it comes to just like our co-mom
Yeah.
relationship. I know my boundaries. I know that, all of the decisions are not mine to make for Carly,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still trusted to make in the moment decisions. And I think for me, knowing that my opinion matters at least and will be heard is really important for me. And the other really nice thing too is circling back to what Jess was saying earlier about not having the like tension or the like resentment or whatever parents have towards each other, moms and stepmoms, dads and stepdads, is I the trust goes both ways. I trust Jess too, as far as I know that if she goes to my house and I'm not there, there's nothing weird that's going to happen,
Mm-mm.
you know? And I think that that's one thing that a lot of new women coming into a man's life who share a child with somebody else that they get nervous of is, well, I need to be there for child drop off and pick up because
Mm.
they've had a relationship in the past. What if there's still feelings there? You know?
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about that. I mean,
I didn't even think about that. It's
yeah,
like not even on my radar, but you're 100% correct. There is a lot of that out
yeah.
there.
And so for me, it's nice because I don't have to worry. I mean, there's
Mm-mm.
been lots of times where she's had to go to my house and I'm not there and it's just Nick there and I don't have to worry about it. Or,
Yeah.
she had to ride in when I had my
Oh, yeah.
twins.
I did a whole
She,
2 hour
she,
drive.
yeah, she rode with Nick to Seattle to the hospital and stayed there with us for a couple of nights, and then he drove her back a couple of days later.
Mm-hmm.
And those aren't things that I have to worry about as, well, what's happening in the car, what's being said.
Yeah.
I i trust both of them, but like the bigger trust I'd say for me is being able to trust her, because as I can trust my partner, right? But you still never know. Some
Yeah.
parents can be like, well, I don't know what she's going to try. I know that my
Mm.
man's not going to try nothing, but what is she going to try? And I don't have to worry about that. And I think that even if we weren't as close as we were, I still wouldn't have to worry about it. I'd still have that trust. But I'd say that's one of the other most important things for me, is that I don't have to have that fear and I don't have to have that worry.
It's definitely a huge foundation of trust. I mean, we have it all around. There are times where like Nick and I aren't even in the situation like we've had situations where Will is picking Carly up from school and dropping her off with Shelby, and so it's like we
Mm-hmm.
have the stepdad and the stepmom who are completely handling things. It's
Or I
just
babysat Caden
yeah.
almost 2 years ago, and Nick or Will was the one that did all drop offs and pickups. So
Mm-hmm.
he came over, brought Caden to me, and then came over and picked him up in the afternoons. And so it's nice because everybody says, it takes a village to raise
It
a
really
family.
does. Yeah.
And even though, Caden's not biologically mine, he's still my family. And I will help them with him whenever I can, however I can. And same thing with my kids, is they've watched my kids for me countless times.
Oh yeah.
We're just one big Brady Bunch family, as Nick would
Yeah.
say.
We kind of just touched on that a little bit when we
For
were talking
significant
about like
others, yeah.
the significant others, but I don't know, I have an interesting perspective on this in terms of including other family. I i don't have a lot of family here. It's just my mom and my brother, and unfortunately my mom doesn't approve of the situation. I think she's definitely still in that generation where it's supposed to be
We hate each other.
right, like it's she's definitely still has that idea that like we shouldn't be friendly. She has a lot of animosity towards Nick. She does not like him, and so because of that, like Shelby just kind of falls in that crossfire naturally. My mom's not like a super big fan of the situation, so I don't really have like any additional family. I would actually say surprisingly Will's family is really open to it. They don't really like actively participate in anything, but it's like they'll come to like Caden's birthday parties and they'll be friendly with Nick and Shelby. Bill particularly, which is William's dad. I love Bill so much, but he's that person that when he goes to an event, he makes a point of like going and saying hi to everybody and
Yeah.
talking to them for a little bit. He treats everybody with the same amount of respect, which I really admire. And so because of that, like I know that Will's family is like very open to it, and Maggie is a child, an early learning child educator of some. I'm probably butchering her title drastically, but I know she approves of it, and she knows that it's the best thing for Carly, and that it's the best thing for Caden, that we're able to showcase a healthy environment, whether that's at our house or your house. So that's really cool to say, like somebody who has a college degree in this shit.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
So that feels good.
I'll never forget too at Caden's last birthday when Will's brother Rob, they were leaving and he gave me like these finger guns and was like, see ya later, I guess. And it's like the funniest thing because I mean, I don't, like Jess said, we don't do, it's not like I hang out with Will's family all the time. I don't have a reason to, but I see them at Carly's birthday, Caden's birthday, and that's like the most that I see them, right?
The finger guns is such a Rob thing.
But it was so funny because I have hardly ever talked to this man. I mean, he was the best man in their wedding. I was the maid of honor, so
yeah, that's how good of a relationship. But she was my maid of honor at my wedding.
Yeah. So it's like I really have never talked to him.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I've talked to his wife. But yeah, so it was like when he was leaving, I think he just didn't know what to say and he's like, see you later, I guess.
Well, and they're such a big hugging family,
Yeah.
which I am not used to that. I grew up in a home that
like we don't hug.
No. and a lot of that is just because the way that I grew up, like there was not affection in the household. Like I didn't hug my mom. I just didn't grow up with that whatsoever. And so marrying Will and being a part of this, the amount of hugging that I've done in the last like 3 has probably made up and healed my inner child. But it's my husband just said, "You're welcome." And so it's funny to me because Rob probably did the finger guns because he's so used to like going in for a hug, but knew that you guys weren't there yet.
Yeah.
So
I was also, keep in mind too, this was also the day that I went to Seattle and then had my twins a couple days later. So I was,
what a whirlwind of events.
I was over it. Everybody at that party was like, kind of worried about you. Are you okay? Like I went because her and my other really good friend Katie were like, you should probably call the doctor because you're not looking great. So I also probably, I know that I had really bad RBF.
Oh yeah.
I was miserable and I was probably just very unapproachable, which probably also was part of the reason that I got the finger guns. But yeah, so it's really funny. And then as far as like our side or significant others, obviously my significant other is the dad, so he's involved in everything.
Yeah.
But as far as our families go, I don't have a relationship with my mom, as I stated in the last video, so she's not around. My dad passed away almost 6 years ago, so he's never met Nick or any of our children. He has met Jesse. Jesse was 5 when he passed away, so he is obviously not involved. And then I just don't, my family's just not involved really.
No.
We all live really busy lives. I have one sister that lives in Texas, so we just don't even really get to see her. And then Nick's family, it's again one of those things where they obviously know Jess, that Jess was part of that family for however long. It's not something where like they all still hang out. It's the same kind of thing as like me with Will's family, is they don't really have a big reason to see each other. That they She sees them on birthdays. She saw them, when my girls were in the NICU in Seattle. There was a day that she brought Carly and Jesse to come meet the girls, and my father-in-law and one of my mother-in-laws were there, so they got to see them there. But that's
Yeah.
really it, that they see each other. They're supportive though of the relationship.
Super supportive. I mean, even just at Baker's birthday party where they were riding quads and stuff, like Tony, which is Nick's dad, came over and, was giving Will shit, and he wanted Will to drive one of the quads, and Will's like, no, I can't do that because, Will doesn't want to break this expensive ass equipment. And Tony was like, nah, come on, I'll show you how to do it. It's fine.
Yeah.
So it's like they're super nice and welcoming to my husband, which is just really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, there was one year, I think maybe it was like a Thanksgiving or something, where they had invited us up, and I think you guys had plans with your mom or his family, like on,
Yeah.
and they were like, well, Jess and Will can come, and I was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
they have plans, but that's really nice. So even though they don't like
Yeah.
see each other that much, they're very, very supportive, and they really always have been. I
Mm-hmm.
think they thought it was a little strange at first, but most people do, to be honest. It's just, that's, I think, a natural reaction for people to have of, oh, that this,
It's the way that they're conditioned. I
yeah.
mean, I never would have saw this coming either, just from how media and the movies portray it. And it's cool too because you can actually kind of see the progression of them warming up to it, because now it's like I'll get phone calls
Yeah.
from Nick's dad, where for the longest time that was non-existent, but he actually called me before Christmas to get ideas for Carly for shopping and stuff like that. And so they're getting to that point where it's like they know that they can go to either Nick or myself,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, it's like it's all about Carly.
Yeah.
So
It's nice. I mean, we've never had to feel like, oh, well, we can't invite Jess to this thing
mm-hmm.
because, Nick's family is going to be there, and
Yeah.
there's no tension. And again, they probably thought it was a little weird at first, but now they've embraced it and they think that it's great. And they'll ask like, oh, how's, Jess's son doing? How's Kaden doing?
Oh
And
yeah.
so, yeah, it's really nice that there's no like tension or animosity there, and that, you know, everybody gets along. And, Tony gives her hugs now. And
Yeah.
at Baker's birthday party this year, they had bought my girls, who were still in the NICU at the time, a bunch of preemie clothes so that they were set when they came home. And Nick's stepmom brought her to come look at
Oh
all the
yeah.
preemie clothes and show her everything. And so it's nice because they now, I feel like, don't only recognize her as Carly's mom, they recognize her as she's my best friend, she's my
Yeah.
person. So it's nice not having to feel like I have to split
Yeah.
myself between people.
Right. And it's like less awkward for me too, because I think that was probably one of the hardest parts about the beginning of our co-parenting journey, was reintegrating myself with his family, because there was a lot of animosity around the situation of me leaving Nick in the first place. And so it was like, this was a family that I had been a part of, and going to all of their family functions and things like that for over 5 years. And that stopped for a solid 3 years. And so we're just now getting back into that point where it's like now his aunts are giving me hugs again when I see them at the birthday
Mm-hmm.
parties. Like they're welcoming me back in. And I think that was the one thing that I was the most worried about, because he's got a big ass family.
He does.
He's, and it's something I'm not used to, because, like I said,
I haven't even met all of his family.
no. There will be people that I'll bring up that she's like,
No
I
idea.
no idea who you're talking
No
about.
idea who that is. Yeah, no
Yeah,
clue.
no clue. And so that it's nice that his family is so welcoming to that, where it's like I can come back in and not feel uncomfortable, and that we can do what we do for Carly and for the entire family without having any sort of like animosity from
Yeah.
that side.
I mean, we're very big on mental health.
Yes, that is a big thing for all of
For all of
us.
us. I feel like since Carly's ADHD diagnosis, have
Mm,
focused a lot on her mental health and making sure that we're doing what's best for her and her journey. We also check in with each other,
mm-hmm.
and I especially, mental health is super important to me. I'm very open that I struggle with depression and anxiety. I want to make sure that it's something that's talked about more. I don't feel like people talk about it enough, and that can lead to some pretty scary things. There's a lot of really scary statistics out there. But I've been starting to do mental health check-ins with Jess, as far as, hey,
Yep.
how are we doing? This isn't just like a, oh, I'm fine question.
Yep.
Talk to me, how's it going? Because I don't think Jess has really ever had somebody that she can open up to and talk
Mm-mm.
to and have a safe person to go to. And so I have to remind her that she has me to go to, and that I am a safe person and she can talk to me and open up and tell me how she's really doing and not give me some sort of superficial answer.
Yeah.
And for me, mental health is one of the biggest things in personal growth that you can do. And so that's where I try to be the most supportive as far as Jess goes, is
Yeah.
with her mental health journey.
I actually have a TikTok about it because I'm in the same boat as Shelby. Mental health has such a negative stigma around it, and for what reason? Like the statistics show the amount of people who suffer from some sort of mental health illness is staggering. And so I have also been very open about my journey with anxiety, depression. I also was diagnosed with ADHD because when Carly was diagnosed, her doctor was like, "Well, when were you diagnosed?" And
She's like, "What are you talking
that's
about?"
right. I was like, "What?" Yeah, I checked almost every single box. And so it was one of those things where I knew that I was not going to be the parent that I wanted to be for my kids until I sought therapy. I actually had one of my close friends lose their battle with mental health. And so I'm just a really big advocate of making sure that you're honest and transparent, because that's your best way of success of making it through these hurdles is with a support network. And I think that's really the turning point of like, yeah, we're co-moms, but also like parenting is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And especially with like the ages that our kids are at right now. There's no parenting book that, gives you the end all be all, like this is the right way to do it. So being able to do that with somebody else, it makes such a huge difference. I don't think I could have. Yeah, Kaden, exactly. So it's definitely one of those things where it's go to therapy. It shouldn't be stigmatized. It needs to be talked about more because almost every single person deals with some sort of mental health. And so that's why we're very open about it with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I believe you can't have growth in other aspects of your life
Mhm.
without nailing down your mental health or taking care of your mental health. And so that's why I feel like that's where I can be the biggest support,
Yeah.
is making sure that she is managing and taking care of her mental health so that she can grow in the other aspects of her life. And of course, like, I'm her biggest cheerleader. Like, anything she does, anything she wants to do, anything that she's going through, I'm going to be there to support her. But I think that, like, the best way that I can support her in her personal growth is going to be through her mental health journey.
Yeah.
Like for Christmas, one of my Christmas presents that I got her that I
Mhm.
was like the most excited for was a daily journal. And it's funny because she had told me,
I feel so bad about this.
well, yeah, she had told me like
Oh, I hate
a
journaling.
week before Christmas. She's like, I hate journaling. My
Mhm.
therapist wants me to journal and I don't want to do it. I hate it. because I don't know what to write about.
Oh yeah.
And
My mind goes blank.
when she first said I hate journaling, I was like, "Oh great. I
Damn it.
bombed this Christmas present and I thought that I had done so good." But then she had said because I don't know what to write. Well, the journal that I got her gives
Prompts.
prompts.
Every single day.
It's a daily journal. It has a prompt for, ideas to write about or a question that you need to answer or whatever it might be. And
Mm-hmm.
every month, I think it's every month, is a
Yeah.
different focus on your
Yeah.
mental health.
So right now for January, it's self-awareness,
Yeah.
which is really cool because there's some questions that like I literally have to like sit down and like through things that I've never thought about before and take time to answer. I think like last night's question was something along the lines of, or who in life are you serving, or something like that. And it was one of those questions where it's like you don't talk about that every day, but it's like you have to reflect a little bit
Yeah.
internally, and so it's cool to be able to have that support and growth. And it's not always just like mental health either. We used to work together at the same place, and so there was a lot of like professional growth that we
Yeah.
pushed each other for too, where whether it was like helping with interview prep or hey come shot, because we were in different departments, and so it was like
We were in the same department for a little while.
yeah, for a little while.
We're supportive of each other to the point where we went after the same position.
Yeah, we
And
both applied.
it was like we both knew that either way it went, whether they were hiring for two of it. So it was like obviously the ideal scenario was that we were both going to get it.
That would have been the
best. But we knew that there was a possibility that that wasn't going to happen and that either we both of us weren't going to get it or one of us would get it over the other, but we still were encouraging each other and cheering each other on and wanting each other to get it.
Yeah,
just as much as we wanted ourselves to get it.
and that could have been a friendship ender, like
Yeah.
100%. But we're so supportive of each other that it like no matter how it would have shaken out, it would have been fine.
Yeah. And then even like in personal life or like within our own families, there has been the last couple of years I've gone through some of the most devastating
Yeah,
things that I've ever gone through.
you've had some trials and tribulations, that's for damn sure.
And I don't know how I would have made it or gotten through it without having Jess by my side and Nick's family by my side. I just, we went through the loss of a daughter in 2021 and then, back to back pregnancies, my twin girls being born 10 weeks early. It's like no matter what decision I made or anything that has to do with my kids, she's right by my side and supporting me or giving me advice or letting me know that reassuring me that I'm doing the right thing for my family, for my kids. So it's like really every aspect we're supporting each other. There's never anything that's going on in either of our lives that the other one doesn't know about.
Yeah. There's definitely like there's no competition, there's none of that. We're so enmeshed into each other's lives, like it's odd.
We joke all the time that we want to like build
Oh yeah.
like build all on the same property. I call it a holler because I can just holler out the front door and yell over to her with an underground tunnel that like is just a giant library for the both of us
with
to
like
hang it out
she
in.
shed type things where we can like go and do like our crafts and stuff like that, like just a whole Brady Bunch compound.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be so nice.
It would be amazing. So there's really nothing I think that we're just supportive all around of everything. Kind of funny because I'd say it's a two-part answer. I'd say that there's what's the most common question we get once people know that we're co-moms and best friends, or what's the most commonly asked question that like strangers ask us before they know our relationship? Because honestly, the most commonly asked question we get is, are you sisters?
Yeah, 100%. We did a lot of shopping together for Christmas, and we had quite a few people who were checking us out that would ask us like, are you guys sisters? And I felt so bad because it got to
We
a point
laugh every time.
where we would just start laughing, and I feel so guilty because I don't want them to think that we're laughing at them, but it's just the situation itself is hilarious because it's the fact that we look so similar that people think that we're sisters. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And I mean, I feel bad laughing too, but it's just and I always pause and I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Right.
Like
We're
we always explain ourselves as far as like, no, we're not sisters. The reason we're laughing is because we're best friends, but we actually also share a daughter. We're co-moms. There was this poor girl.
she was not
She could not
understanding.
handle it.
She couldn't comprehend. And
No.
like we left that situation and we tried explaining multiple different times.
Because this was a situation where we also had Carly with us.
Yes.
And Carly very much will be like, well, these are my moms.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're both my moms.
And we've had situations like that time that we went and got our nails done.
For your wedding?
For my wedding. And Carly was telling everybody that she was getting nails done for her mom's wedding.
And then she goes, that's my mom and that's my stepmom. So everybody thought that we were getting married.
Yeah. That was for us.
Yeah.
And we fully embraced it.
Yeah.
It was just, we left that one situation where that cash register gal 100% thought that we were all living together as
like a
one
polyamorous.
Yeah, like a polyamorous family. Hilarious, because we know how our dynamic works, and I could just like imagine the look on Nick's face of seeing that, because he already thought the whole situation was weird, and now people think that we're just one big ol' happy family.
Well, and Nick will joke all the time too, like, you guys are together, and like, oh, are you getting all like putting makeup on and doing your hair for your girlfriend? Like, he plays into it too and thinks that it's funny. So that, I would say, is our most commonly asked question for people who don't know us.
Mm-hmm.
For people who do know us, and I can't really think of questions that we've been asked. It's more comments and praise.
Yeah.
Which is, I understand it, but at the same time, I guess I'm just so used to this dynamic. And this has always been my mindset as far as...
It makes me uncomfortable too, because it's like, we're not going, to us, like, we're not going above and beyond. Like, this is...
But because the expectation of society is that the mom and the stepmom will hate each other, it just blows everybody's mind as far as society just paints this picture of, you know, moms and stepmoms, dads and stepdads need to hate each other.
Oh, yeah.
I understand why people want to praise us or say that we're amazing for what we do, but it's really, I feel like it should just be natural to want to do what's best for your kid and or kids. And I don't feel like we do anything. Like I said, at this point we're also just best friends, so it's nothing, our relationship isn't nothing different than what I would do with like another friend,
right?
If they weren't my stepdaughter's mom. There's just, I think, more benefit to it, honestly, because
100%.
You know, we get to spend holidays together and do all these other things together, and we are just one big family. But we get told so all the time, like, oh, I wish that my ex and I could co-parent like this.
Yeah.
And my question for them is like, well, what's stopping you? And again, I'm not saying that you need to rush out and be best friends.
Yeah.
We're definitely went above and beyond, I guess.
We did. Just a little bit.
But there's no reason. I mean, every situation's different, and I can understand not doing things to the extent that we do things. This life is not for everybody. It just is what works best for us and what it evolved to. But there's no reason that you can't lose the tension for your kids. There's a lot of situations out there. I guess there could be some reasons where there would be tension, but
I'd be curious to see, like, what are the things that are stopping you from being able to have a relationship, and maybe that could be like a future episode where we can kind of talk through our ideas, because at the end of the day, like, Nick and I, we had our differences. Like, there were a lot of difficult things that we went through. There was a reason why our relationship ended, and we were still able to overcome a lot of those and still make this relationship work. And a lot of that comes from you have to let your ego deflate. You have to put your differences aside. There's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make because you're doing what's best for your kids. And there are things that you have to do as an adult to essentially get over yourself. Like, I easily could have held on to a lot of hatred for Nick. I easily could have, tried to pin things against him and try and get full custody or child support or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, all I knew that all that was going to do
Was hurt Carly.
was hurt Carly. And that's not my goal.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I'd be curious to see like what is stopping you, and maybe we can have some ideas on what you could do to make the first step on improving that relationship.
Yeah. Like we've said, we don't expect people to run out and do all these family activities together, but I
Mm-mm.
think that like drop-offs and pickups could be more amicable for some people. There are some houses I know that if a child even brings up the other parent, it's very tense, and it
Mm.
shouldn't be that way. I felt that way growing up, whereas like I'd bring up something with my dad, and then all I would hear from my mom was bashing about my dad. Like I said, she refused to even call my son by his
Mm-hmm.
name because it came from my dad's name, and she couldn't handle that, and she had so much hatred towards him that she refused to call my son by his name and would call him something else that my son didn't even like. And
Yeah.
but he felt like he couldn't tell her that he didn't like it. We're just saying that there's like definitely room, I guess, for some relationships to improve, and that's what we want to help is help people learn how to co-parent more successfully, because that's, at the end of the day, that's
Yeah.
what you need to do for your kid. You need to do what's best for your children.
And by all means, like, we're not saying that like we're the picture perfect,
Oh God,
like
no.
like that we definitely go through our bouts and everything, but just because we've had so many people tell us like how much they love our story, like that's part of our goal, is kind of sharing how we got here to give others ideas on what they could do differently if they wanted to.
Yeah.
From my point of view, I kind of already touched on it a little bit, and a lot of that is letting your ego slide and being able to put, whatever past feelings or things aside, because all of that happened in the past. You cannot change the past, and you can't change what happened. What you can do is embrace a new future and create a new relationship, because the relationship that you have with the other parent is a completely different relationship now from what you had previously. And so you can create a new foundation on what you want that to look like. And so for me, a lot of that was being open to ideas and communication and being clear on boundaries and setting those boundaries. Because yeah, at the end of the day, like Shelby said, I don't have to take her ideas, I don't have to do the things that she recommends, but I'm still open to listening to them and having empathy. And there are a lot of great ideas that I have taken and used, and it's because I was open to hearing them in the first place. And so that would be like my number one advice, is at least just hear them out. Whether you act on it, totally up to you, but just being able to have that clear, open communication is definitely like a foot in the door for sure.
Yeah. And I'd say my advice for the stepmom coming into the situation would be, know your place. Know that you are not that child's mother.
Mm-hmm.
Know that they have, hopefully,
Ideally, yeah.
ideally every situation is different, and I understand that. But if you are in a situation where that child has a loving mother on the other side of things, know that that's their mother, and that you can't just come in and try to be their mother.
Yeah.
You have to build a relationship with the child, but you also have to show that mom respect and not try to step on their toes. I mean, that was all the place that I was coming from, which started for Jess and I to talk, was all about Carly. How do I do this for Carly?
Mm-hmm.
What is what do I need to do? What are you comfortable with for me to do in this situation? And because I didn't want to step on her toes, I didn't want to do something that she was going to be like, I cannot believe Nick let his girlfriend do this with my child.
Oh yeah.
So you need to know your place and you need to know your boundaries, and you need to know that if you give the other parent a recommendation or a suggestion, that at the end of the day they don't have to take it, because
Yeah.
that's their child. And even though you're now a new parent in this child's life, you're not the parent.
Mm-hmm.
I think is would be my advice, is
Yeah.
knowing your spot.
And it kind of goes both ways too, because a lot of it is like, yeah, we are parenting the kids, but you also have to model that behavior for your kids. So a lot of what I do with Carly is that if William stepped in or if Shelby stepped in and, tried to discipline her or talk to her about something, I'm backing that parent up. I'm there and I tell Carly, like, you need to show William and Shelby the same respect that you show me as your parent. So I model that behavior, that I also see Shelby as a parent and I also see William as a parent. And that helps a lot of being able to, Carly can't go from one parent to the other
Yeah,
because she knows that they all have the same standing as I do. And I think
yeah,
that takes a lot of courage to be able to like step up and say, like, it's not my way or the highway. Like, it's my way and Shelby's way and Will's way and Nick's way. Like, we all collaborate and we all parent Carly.
yeah. And the nice thing to go along with that is Jess will back us up every time. And if
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't agree with maybe something that we said, she'll say it behind closed doors of like, hey, I didn't really appreciate the tone you had in this
Mm-hmm.
situation. Your tone could have been differently. Or,
Yeah.
hey, maybe next time let's like give a warning before we just jump into this. Or
Like,
so
I'll
it's
never undermine their parenting in front of Carly.
right.
Like, I will always, if something came up, I'll tell it to them directly outside of the situation, so that way we're always showing a united front when it
Yeah.
comes to Carly's perspective.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing, because there are a lot of situations where that doesn't necessarily always happen.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a good point, because I mean, again, I my point of reference is how I grew up, and that would happen to me all the time where, something would happen at one house and I would go to the other house and explain what happened, and I would be told, well, that's not how they should have handled this, or I would have
Mm,
handled it like this. Or sometimes too, like if I did something at school and both my parents got called, I'd get a talking to from both parents. And that was one of the worst things for me as a kid, was I felt like I got yelled at 2 times because I was in two
mm,
households. I felt like I got punished twice as much because I was in two households, and my punishments in the households were different. So it was like I couldn't do one thing at one house, but I could do it when I went to the other house, but I couldn't do this other thing.
yeah.
And it was very confusing. And that's the nice thing, is if Jess handles a conversation, we don't have to worry about handling it at our house, or vice
Yeah.
versa. If there's a situation that happens at our house, Jess doesn't have to worry about disciplining it at her house. We might seek to understand some more with her
Mm-hmm.
and have conversations with her as far as, hey, like, can you just walk me through the emotions you were feeling? Because with her ADHD, that's one of the big things, is impulse control acted on her emotions. So walk me through the emotions you were feeling. How could we have reacted differently, or
Yeah.
whatever that might look like? But we don't yell at her or discipline her. It
Mm-mm.
doesn't happen twice. It happens one time. There's one disciplinary conversation.
Yeah.
Any other conversations that are had about whatever it was is very much a seek to understand. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about it. how can I help you deal with this in the future? What are some strategies or some techniques that we can use so that you can fall back on it if you're put in this position again?
Yeah, 100%. It's because we have that open communication. Like, I know that if we didn't have that, it's very easily a possibility that she would be getting punished twice. And it's nice too because it's like we also respect each other's punishments. So, for example, Carly did something at Shelby's house that led her to getting grounded and having something taken away for a set amount of time. And she came over to my house, I would uphold that
Yeah, it
punishment.
doesn't pause just because she goes to mom's house
Yeah,
and then resume when she gets back to
like
our
I'm
house. It
gonna
is,
back up Shelby and Nick's punishment and say, yeah, no, like you're grounded from this because of the choice that you made. So I'm also going to be taking away electronics for the duration. Like
yeah.
that
And that's where
way.
that consistency, especially with her ADHD, is key because, again, she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't handle change very well. So for her to have to know, like, oh, I'm grounded from this at dad's, but I can do it at mom's
Yeah,
and get used to it again, but then I'm going to go back to dad's and then I don't have it again.
it's
That's not
not.
an ideal
Yeah,
situation.
it's not conducive.
And it doesn't show that united front. If something that I want for my kids is, they're not always going to be kids, they're going to be
Yeah,
adults, they're going to have their own kids one day. And as much as I can hope for them that they're going to find their partner and marry them and have children with them and be with them forever, we know that not always going to be the case. There could be separations and divorce and split households. And one of the things I want them to take from our family dynamic is I want them to be able to see everybody can get along and everybody can still be friends, and their kids don't have to choose
yeah,
between the households. Carly doesn't have to choose as far as I like this house better than that house, or
yeah.
it's all consistent and she gets to see us all get along. And I mean, there are a lot of times where we'll have game nights and we're like, kids, get out. This
Yeah,
is
like
this is adult time.
we're all hanging
We're
out.
all hanging out.
Yeah,
Go away.
yeah.
Okay.
Go find something to do.
Go find something to do. We have this friendship that I think is also, even, Jess and Nick at one point liked each other. They were at one point friends. They at one
Yeah.
point got along. They liked each other well enough to have a freaking child together. And like, obviously they went their separate ways.
Yeah.
They wanted different things. They became different people and they co-parented successfully. They co-parented.
I was gonna say
They
we
co-parented,
co-parented.
but now it's like they have, I think, refound that friendship that
Yeah.
they I'm assuming, once had, or what. Again, I have that trust where I know that they're different people. I know that they're
Oh
not going to
yeah.
like fall back in love, any of that. It's not something that I'm worried about, but I am glad to know that they can at least be friends.
Yeah.
This is who he goes to when he needs help Christmas shopping for me or birthday
Mm-hmm.
shopping or whatever.
And it's not a situation where it's like we're only civil because of like Shelby and I. Like a great example is I literally just picked up Carly from school and our kids go to the same school, and Nick had pulled up in the parking lot literally right next to me because they it was I think it was like choir pickup or something.
Jesse had math Olympiad.
Oh, that's right. So, but after school activities. So we're sitting in the parking lot, and we literally rolled down the window and we were talking back and forth while waiting to pick up the big kids from school. And it's not like a forced, awkward interaction because we have to be. Like, we are genuinely friends again because we've rebuilt that relationship. I think that this is like the easiest question to answer because I think our our children are sponges. Like they just absorb all the good and all the bad. The amount of curse words that I have taught Kaden accidentally in the last month and a half.
Yeah, Baker's favorite phrase right now is "what the fuck." So
I love the way he says it though. What the fuck?
yeah,
Really, we just model the friendship. Like we model the behavior that we want to be able to teach them how to treat your friends and how to be able to treat one another. And that's why I always stand up for them when they're parenting. And that's why I never want to undermine them in front of Carly. Like, I just want to model the type of relationship that I think that she should have with her friends and things. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so, that's such an easy question to answer for me.
Yeah, and adding on to that, for me, it's like, how do you support your friends? How are you
Mm-hmm.
there for your friends? Like I said, these last couple of years have been some of the most devastating in my life. And, not only Jess, but her husband too, Will, like they've been there for us when we've needed them to be. We got COVID in early 2022, and Will went grocery shopping and bought us, top ramen and soup and popsicles and easy snacks and breakfast stuff for Baker to have so that
Yeah.
we didn't have to worry about cooking for him. There have been times where in those after school programs, thankfully Jesse and Carly have the same days for after school programs where,
Mm-hmm.
it's been, hey, can you pick Jesse up for me? This happened. I'm not able to get there on time.
Yeah.
Or if I'm running a few minutes behind, I'll text them, hey, can you guys just tell Jesse that
Mm-hmm.
I'm running a couple minutes behind? I'll be right there.
And vice versa. Like, there'd be situations where it's like, do you mind if Carly rides the bus to your guys' house and we'll come pick her up after because
Yeah.
of like Will had to work late or something?
Or, this year at the beginning of the school year, Jess was on a trip with her mom and her brother, and
Mm-hmm.
to kind of help William because he was home with Carly and Caden. I came and picked Carly up, and we went to meet the teacher night and did the little scavenger hunt thing that they had at their school, and did those things with her because he was working, and I picked. Oh, that was one of the situations I had to pick her up from his
Yeah.
mom, and I was able to pick her up from him or from her, and took her, and he met me at the school to pick her up when he was off work and when we were all done. And it's just, you have to be there for your friends even if we weren't co-moms. I mean, like I've said, I'm there for Caden when they need help with Caden,
Yeah.
and they're there for me when I need help with my zoo of children. And not even just the ones that Nick and I share, like they are there for Jesse too. They
Mm-hmm.
took Jesse to the Puyallup Fair one year, and he had a blast. And those aren't things that they have to do. They don't have to invite him to family things. And
Mm-mm.
there was one Christmas where Will's mom they were doing Christmas cookies at
Yeah.
his parents' house, and they invited Jesse to go with Carly. And, everybody is really respectful of the fact that Carly and Jesse don't see step
Yeah.
anything really.
Mm-mm.
You
No,
know,
their brother and sister,
yeah,
hands down.
that's his little sister and that's her older brother, and that's just the relationship and the bond that they have. And it's really nice that Will's family sees that and knows that and has included him on things, and that they see that. And like I said, when my girls were in the NICU, Jess brought Carly and Jesse down. It wasn't just
Yeah.
her being concerned about Carly coming and meeting her new little sisters. It was also being concerned about Jesse getting to come and meet his new little sisters too. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that showcasing that for our kids and showing not just what co-parenting should look like, but what friends should do for each other too,
Yeah.
is super important. And I think that we see a lot of these things already in our kids having empathy for their friends and seeing their friends go through something and wanting to be there for them and help them through it because they've seen us go through things and us being there for each other. So that's my biggest thing, is showing our kids how to support and be there for your friends outside of what you'd think that you needed to be.
Although I think us going to Jesse's games together might not be the showcasing the best personalities right
Yeah,
there. We get a little
passionate.
passionate. That's a great word
Yeah.
for that. Yeah, we're very passionate at
My
Jesse's.
son does every sport under the sun.
Yes, he does.
He's very much a sports
Mm-hmm.
enthusiast, and I get very passionate at the games just on my own. Nick hates going to games with me because I'm very much the mom. I just shared a TikTok about it the other day that was like, the mom I want to be at games, and it's just you're sitting there quietly like clapping, and then the mom that you are, and it's like banging your hands on the ground, standing up, yelling, like looking mad. That's me. Nick hates it. He hates going to games with me. He gets embarrassed. I've yelled at refs. I've yelled at coaches on the other team. Like, that's
Oh yeah.
shows you how passionate I am for good reason. I just want to add for good reason.
Oh yeah.
But my energy just feeds off of my
Oh yeah.
energy in those
It's
situations.
so bad, but because I try and go to as many of Jesse's games as possible, which I think that just kind of showcases like the relationship that we have with him. Is regardless if I can bring Carly or not, like I'll show up
Oh yeah.
to games. And I think that even surprised Nick a lot too last year, where it was like I would show up to baseball games to support Jesse, even when
She'd be like coming from work, so she didn't have Carly with her. It was just
yeah,
her, and he's like, "What are you doing here?"
and Shelby wouldn't be able to make it, and so it would literally just be me and Nick watching Jesse play baseball
Yeah.
because we're all there to support each other's kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely feed off of Shelby energy, and the amount that I have learned about basketball to be able to feed off that energy and also get mad at the refs for making really shitty calls is it's real bad.
Yeah.
My daughter is not sportsy. She is definitely artsy.
Yeah.
She likes to do like chess and choir and that kind of thing. So like,
Which Jesse does too.
yeah. But I'm like living like vicariously through you
Yeah.
and Jesse. So
She gets very into it. I don't know how
yeah,
she is when I'm not there because that's only happened a couple of times, but at least
yeah.
when I am there and I'm into it, she's definitely into it with me. So we're definitely like, and like I'm talking, I get there early
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that I can get a good seat so that those kids can hear me. I'm gonna yell, you bet they're gonna hear me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The kids in the other gyms probably hear me. But it's all fun. But yeah, so I mean that's just the extent that we go is she comes to Jesse's things and Caden's not in school. The boys aren't doing sports or anything like that
Mm-mm.
yet, but I once Caden is doing those things, like those are things that I'll be going to
Yeah.
dependent
I
on
mean,
my
even
kids'
when
schedules, but
Carly tried like cheerleading and stuff, like you guys went to games and stuff where she was
she's our
performing.
kid though too.
Well, I mean, I guess that's true. I'm like trying to make a comparison, but yeah, it's really it's not the same.
It's not the same, yeah. I had a lot of adults in my life growing up that were, my dad's really close friend that was my uncle. Like even
Mm-hmm.
though there was no blood relation there, that was my uncle because that was my dad's really good friend. I mean, because of the dynamic we have, like my kids don't call her auntie or anything like that. And
Mm-mm.
Caden has called me auntie once, which I don't know where that came from. That was pretty out of left field because we've never.
Yeah. Well, my mom has started doing that where it's like very recently because she's only done it with the twins, but it was at the Red Barn event where she
Mm,
was talking to somebody about the because God, the amount of people that come up and ooh twins. Uh,
you can't walk 5 feet without getting
oh
stopped when
yeah,
you have
it's
baby twins.
it's so bad. But my mom refers to me as the twins' aunts,
Okay.
and so I think that's where Kaden has like picked up on it. But it's so funny because she doesn't do that with Baker and she doesn't do that with
Just the
Lincoln,
twins.
just the twins. And it's like
That's
I've been
interesting.
there for all of them, but okay.
Yeah, that's so funny. But that's still very much like I think the role that we have in each other and in like our kids'
Mm-hmm.
lives is like I said, Caden's my best little buddy.
Oh yeah.
My kids, they're all mostly babies, but like
That all, but
Baker,
like Baker, the thing that I look forward to the most when going over to Shelby's house is that no matter where Baker is, we'll usually like
bolt.
sprint
Yeah.
into the biggest hug.
Yeah.
I love that. Or I'll be leaving and I'll roll down my window and I'll drive slowly because 9 times out of 10
He's
Baker is
standing at the
sitting at the
door.
door waving goodbye to me and it's
Yeah.
so cute.
Yeah. So, and it's like those are the things that like I want my kids to when they're adults and they have kids. I think that that's such a natural thing that when you're friends with people, you're
Mm-hmm.
you're not only friends with them, but you're part of their kids' lives too when they have
Yeah.
kids. And I want to showcase a good example for my kids on how to be involved in your friends' kids' lives and how to be there for them because it takes a freaking village to raise these little gremlins.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
they put me in tears sometimes. I love my children,
yeah.
but they put me in tears sometimes. So it's like you need that extra support. You need more people to
Mm-hmm.
love your kids. And I mean, there are a lot of things that I I can introduce to her kids that maybe she wouldn't have thought of, or that she can introduce to my kids that they wouldn't have thought of.
Mhm.
So it's just, that's how I want my kids to be involved with their friends and their friends as kids when they, in the very long away future,
Yeah.
get to that point of having kids and
Mhm.
all that.
And I think another thing too that we haven't touched on, but I think is really important, is our ability to be able to ask for help. A lot of people I know are really uncomfortable with that. They don't like being a burden. At the end of the day, like, you can't do this by yourself. And so even if you don't have like a co-parenting situation, but like being able to reach out to your family or your friends or something, and being willing to say, I can't do this on my own, I need help, is huge. And for like basic things too, like there have been situations where Shelby has had all four kids by herself, and she's like, I just want to take a shower.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, I'll be there in 30 minutes. I'll take care of your kids. Go take a shower.
Yeah.
Not a big deal, but it gives her that peace of being able to do those things and not get overwhelmed, just because she was able to just reach out and ask.
Yeah. Or even just being able to know each other well enough to know when the other one
Mm-hmm.
needs something, because there's been situations too where I've texted Will and was like, "Hey, I think that Jess could really use a night out.
Yeah.
Bring the kids over
Mm-hmm.
and I'll take them for the night. You guys go have a date night, go do something fun together."
Yeah.
Jess didn't even realize it at the time that she needed that, but she did. She needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And the timing of it kind of sucked just because our house got broken into that night. So I
Yeah.
was running on like 2 hours of sleep, but
It real bad.
it was real bad. But it's like, I still, and this was like, not like it was like a last minute planning. I had
Mm-mm.
texted him like a week before, like, why don't you guys go do this? And, this would be great. And we kind of planned it together. And I don't even remember if we even told Jess until that day or the day
Mm-mm.
before or something.
Yeah. It was like I found out about it like very last minute,
Yeah.
and I was shocked.
Yeah. But it's like, I could recognize that she needed that, and you need friends in your life to do that. If they
Yeah.
don't feel like they can ask for help, or that they're struggling, like, you got to help however you can, at least in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. And that's what I want our kids to that's the type of friends I want our kids to be when they grow up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So thanks for tuning in and listening to
Us ramble.
us ramble. ADHD shit show.
Woo! Yeah, thanks again for watching. If you have any other questions, we just kind of did some real good internet Googling to find these. But if you have any questions or anything that you would like us to answer in a future episode, our email, dadsxandnex@gmail.com.
We also have our Facebook set up now and our Instagram. Again, just Dad's X and Neck, both on Instagram and on Facebook. We also have a TikTok, so you can find us there as well. So, yeah, reach out any questions you might have, or any topics or anything like that. We're happy to answer any questions, either pertaining to situations that we've gone through, or any advice that we can lend if there's a certain
Mm-hmm.
topic or question.
We won't be doing an episode next weekend, mainly because we are getting professional photos done. So we will be vlogging that experience, which I'm sure will be very entertaining.
It
But
should be something.
something.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on another episode. We hope that you continue to tune in, and thanks again for all the encouragement and support. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And until next time,
Yeah.
bye.
Bye.